All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Drive. Craig Harvey here coming to you. Super excited that you've chosen to lean in and listen as we talk about growth today. I don't care what business you're in, if some is good, more is better. As long as we're not talking about your waistline or your hairline, we want growth, right? And so, as we dive into this today, I want to tell you a story as to how a talk came about that changed thousands of lives that were live listening, and you get a chance to hear it right now. A few months ago, I was at the pediatrician's office with my wife, Alexandria, and we were having our boy, Rocky's 15 months old, looked at. Now, what I didn't know was that growth spurts happen between, listen to this, 12 months and 36 months, according to pediatricians. So I'm reading this pamphlet on growth and really growth spurts, and my phone rings. And it's a gentleman named Evan Proch, who runs a large organization within our company. And he said, Craig, I want you to come to a talk in Tampa, at the Tampa Convention Center, to our young guys that are looking to go to a place they're not at. And I said, well, I get you, Ev. What do you want me to talk about? And he said, growth. And at the same time he's telling me to talk growth, I've got this pamphlet in my hands. We'll put a picture up and you can see it. And basically, they showed 6 indicators that your toddler was growing. Now, obviously, they're talking about kids, right? Little boys, little girls, 12 to 36 months, and how to see signs that growth is happening in these babies. Well, think about this. Whatever organization you're at, what if, and I believe I'm right here, that between that 12-month and 36th month of your indoctrination into whatever organization you're in, that's when growth really begins to take place. That's when the harvest, so to speak, of the seeds that you've sown start to come to fruition. And so think about what industry you're in. Think about right now what it is you're looking to grow, and understand it doesn't happen in month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4, month 5. I remember my years back, my oldest son now, Caden, he used to get bad headaches, and we would give him not rapid release Tylenol, we would give him extended release Tylenol, which means the Tylenol would go into Caden's system. Initially, it looked like it wasn't working. But that's where you had to read the box, man. You had to read, on the back, the label, so to speak. And what it taught us was that it was happening. It just wasn't happening as fast as we wanted to. It was extended release. That's what I believe a lot of us experience in business. Obviously, we want it yesterday, right? We want that microwave mentality. No, nobody wants that crock pot experience where you have to wait on it to simmer, wait on it to kind of percolate, so to speak. But I've learned that things in the crock pot taste so much better, so often, more often than things in the microwave. And so for some of you watching right now, I'm telling you that medicine's in you. The decisions you've made, the choices you've made, it's working. Sometimes it just takes a little longer for it to kind of come to fruition. And so let's talk about these indicators, growth spurt indicators. How do I know that I'm growing? How do I know that my business is moving forward? How do I know that I'm moving forward? Wouldn't it be great in business if it was like today's beautiful here in Santa Rosa? There's not a cloud in the sky. I can guarantee you it's not raining today, okay? For those of you that live in Florida, they say it rains a little bit every day in Florida. Not today, all right? But if you could walk out and you could metaphorically see the clouds rolling in, you could see the gray skies start to mount. You know a storm is coming. Wouldn't it be great if we had indicators that growth was coming? Here's what I've learned, and this is very important. Personal growth always precedes team growth. For those of you growing teams, leading organizations, I promise you the pace of the leader will dictate the pace of the team. Whenever I've seen great growth within my business, it was preceded by personal growth in not just myself, but in the leaders that were going first, that were leading the way, so to speak. Let me put it to you like this. 6s don't recruit 9s. I'm talking talent here, folks. If you're a 6, all right, from a standpoint of your ability to speak, if it's to lead, if it's to execute and initiate results, it's going to be tough for you to attract a 9, someone that is a badass, an all-American, so to speak, in whatever industry or entity that you're in. Can I say that the only place Jennifer Aniston hooks up with Adam Sandler, no offense, Sandman, is in the movies, okay? There's a reality of sixes attract sixes and nines, Miss Jennifer, attract nines. So here's what I've learned in business. Change is inevitable. It is inevitable that things are going to change. Growth, however, is optional. Just because things are changing doesn't mean things are growing. And I think the mistake that a lot of guys make is that when you've won a lot, you begin to not just lean and leverage your wins, but you begin to expect things that you're not necessarily doing what you did to create the victories you've experienced. Let me say it like this: growth isn't guaranteed. Growth isn't something that's given. Growth isn't something that's owed to you, okay? How about this? Growth isn't something you own. Growth is something you rent. And the rent really is due every day, isn't it? I've learned in my business career that growth, guys, is an uphill grind. And everybody's got uphill dreams, don't they? But a lot of us have downhill habits. And if you're someone that has these uphill dreams but downhill habits, I promise you, it's going to be difficult to kind of be able to grow your way out of the habits that are creating the life that inevitably you're living. I've met so many, let's say 29-year-olds that are in the same mental place that they were when they were 22. Imagine moving into a house at 22 and nothing changes for 7 years. I mean, look, you never change the carpet, you never change the furniture, you never change the decor, you never change the placemats or the I don't know, the coasters, the towels, everything stays just as it was. And then some 9 years later, somebody comes in 7 years later, and nothing has been updated. That's metaphorically, mentally, how so many people that I've met in business are. They have a little bit of success and they stop growing. They stop learning. They stop pouring into themselves, and they miss out on what really creates the best version of themselves. I call it this nature versus nurture theory. Nature is what God gives you, right? I mean, you didn't ask to be white or black or brown or yellow or Indian, whatever it might be. You didn't ask to be as tall as you are, as short as you are. You didn't ask for the IQ that you've got. You didn't ask for the athletic ability. You didn't fill out some kind of a waiver or paperwork stating you wanted this eye color, this height, this weight. None of that was your decision. That was nature. That's what God just blessed you with. Nurture, however, is what you do with what God gives you. Nurture is how you develop the gifts, develop the talents, develop the skill sets that you were born with. And if you don't develop it, if you just allow that to be, hey, whatever it is, it will remain there. And it will inevitably hold you back from what you could have been, what you should have been, and what hopefully, if you really dive in and develop yourself, wow, it's amazing as to what you can and you will become. So let's talk about these growth spurt indicators. Again, signs that you're on the grow, signs that great things are to come. So ask yourself, if you will, are you experiencing these indicators? Are you experiencing right now these symptoms? Because these symptoms are a reflection you're growing. Now, look, if you're not experiencing these symptoms right now, it's all good. That just means not that your time isn't coming. It just means that right now might be a season where you're not totally on the grow. Does that make sense? Because there are seasons not just of plateauing, but there's seasons that after you've grown, after you've taken in, if you're an organization that is recruiting, there's a season where you've recruited the masses, and now it's time to educate whom it is that have come into your organization and make sure that you don't lose what it is that you've caught. Imagine catching a ton of fish, but not cleaning the fish, not icing the fish, right? And you have this harvest of fish that you've caught, but if you don't ice them down, they're going to go bad. And so let's get into this. I'm excited because the first thing the pamphlet said, very first thing was it said increased appetite. Increased appetite. How do you know you're growing? There's an increased appetite about the toddler. Now, my toddler's Rocky, and I could just tell you, little Rocky eats whatever Mama Alex feeds him. okay? Rocky is a healthy eater because Alex is a healthy eater. I'm telling you, my boy eats avocado toast. Yeah, he eats grilled salmon, sushi. Look, I came home the other day, he was eating turkey bacon. Turkey bacon. Feed that to the little one, not the big one, mama, okay? But Rocky isn't being trained to grow up picky. He's not going to grow up a picky eater. Why? Because right now he's so hungry. I swear, Alex put sardines on the boy's plate the other day. And I come in and I see literally my little 15-month-old. What the hell is he doing eating sardines? He's hungry. So I want to ask you a question. How hungry are you? I've gone through seasons in business and in life where I was starving, man. I've gone through seasons in business and in life where I wasn't someone that had to have it just perfect. It had to be cooked exactly the way I wanted it. It wasn't something that I was picky and it just had to be just absolutely right. No, no. When you're hungry, when you're hungry, you're on the grow. Let me say it again. Hunger reflects growth. Listen, the hungrier you are, the more of a growth spurt you are on. The more food on your plate, the more of a growth spurt you are on. If you're hungrier than you used to be, guess what? That's an indicator right now I'm growing. Nobody's got to force you to eat. No, nobody's got to just, beg you or bribe you or push you. There's a hunger about you. I've seen a lot of people that claim to be hungry, but then everything has to be right about the leads they're running, about the people they're working with, about the seasons, and it's just, to me, like, dude, you haven't experienced real hunger. Okay, in business, if you are picky as to who you're going to work with, what markets you're going to work in, if whether or not everything's aligning, I've learned hungry people are going to find a way to feed themselves and to eat. I love what The Rock said. It's funny, I've got The Rock, Dwayne Johnson here. Shout out to you, Rock. Hadn't seen you in a while. And my little boy, Rocky. The Rock said, Dwayne, if you've ever been hungry, you'll never be full. And he taps into something that's so powerful because hungry people don't skip conference calls. Hungry people don't skip and miss Zoom calls. Hungry folks aren't late to meetings complaining about the temperature of the room. Hungry folks don't show up and they're hungover from the night before. They come late, they leave early. No, no, no. Hungry folk. Can I tell you something? I wasn't the smartest. I wasn't the most educated. I wasn't the sharpest or even the luckiest, but I damn sure was the hungriest. And I wish to God I could invent a hunger meter. Some of you coaches and leaders out there know what I'm talking about. There's something about hiring hungry. You know those stud finders? I'm in my man cave here, and when we went to hang these pictures, they brought out these stud finders. That thing got close to me and started beeping left and right. I'm kidding, but maybe so, right? My wife thinks so. But seriously, they put those stud finders on these walls to show you where the stud was. Wouldn't it be great to have a hunger finder? And you could just kind of put that hunger finder up to men and women, young, old, married, single, straight, gay, it doesn't matter. And that thing would just go off because when you hire hungry, when you find someone that's hungry, guess what? They're on the grow. The second point and the second literal note on this pamphlet was that sleep patterns shift. Now, remember, I'm in the pediatrician's office just reading this. Number one, increased appetite. Number two, sleep pattern shift. Now, my boy Rocky Rockford is on a schedule. Rocky is on a strict schedule. He is down at 8. He wakes up at 8. That's just the way it is. Thank God to mama for doing it like that, setting it up like that. But because he's growing now, his sleep schedule is shifting. Now, look, as a father, you're like, oh, come on, baby. Come on, little Rock. Go back to sleep. But he's on the grow. And when you're on the grow, your sleep patterns shift. Now, this is how it was with my organization and my company for years. And as I talk about sleep, I just want to get into this because inactivity, let me say it again, inactivity, sleep is a thief. And what that thief steals is your time. And what I've learned is the most powerful and precious and absolutely valuable commodity that you and I possess is time. I don't care how much you're worth. I don't care how, you may have more degrees than a thermometer, bro, okay? If you got a GHD or a PhD, it doesn't matter. What you have the equivalent amount of is time, and how you invest that time is the great equalizer. And it is the only thing that all of us have the equal amount of. I love what the great Arnold Schwarzenegger said about sleep and about time. He said, "For those of you that need more sleep, sleep faster." Sleep faster. If you sleep 8 hours, that leaves you 16 hours a day to hustle. 16 hours a day to be able to separate yourself from the contenders, from the pretenders, from those that really have a plan and those that are just fly by night going through life, hoping and wishing that things become better than they are now. When I was really on the grow, like my son, I naturally slept less. And that's what's happening with Rocky. Boy, he's sleeping less. He's up. There's something on his mind. And I've learned when you're waking up earlier than you used to, when you're staying up later than you used to, it's almost like your mind is forcing your body to do more. It's almost like there's this reservoir of energy that's inside you that almost triggers, and it shows you, guess what? Growth is coming. Let me tell you something about growth. Growth is addictive. When you're growing an organization, I don't care what it is, man. If you're growing a newspaper business, if you're growing a laundromat, if you're growing an insurance organization, a real estate organization, when you're really growing, it's almost like there's a serotonin level in your brain that is connected to the growth that you're experiencing. And I'm saying that action, energy, motion, movement, activity, it indicates growth. So let's do a little exercise. Are you ready? Check your schedule. Check your schedule, man. Look at what you're doing when. How many video games are you playing? I mean, I hear about these grown-ass adults playing video games. Damn it, I haven't played a video game since I was in college, boy. And people are talking about wanting to make more money, wanting to grow their organization. Social media. I'm pretty much a social media ghost. Why? Because I'm focused on revenue, producing activities. How much Netflix are you watching? How many hours are spent growing yourself, looking at strategies for your organization and business plans as to whether or not they're being executed, and how the people that are responsible for that execution, how are they really developing? I've learned to do something. This was just something that I've done in my career. It's called a GPS. Now, we all know what a GPS is, don't we? Right? I mean, a GPS is what dude, I'm a little old school, okay? So I remember the days of the Magellan. I remember the days of the TomTom, where you would kind of type into that little device in your car and it would tell you where to go. Well, I've learned that if you really want to get serious about your future, you need a GPS. What do I mean? Goals, priorities, and schedule. Goals, priorities, and schedule. I used to put a picture of whatever goal I was chasing on my mirror in the morning. Swear to God, I could do it. I could take you back and show you right now pictures of a finished basement. Okay. Initially, it was just, God, I'd love to have a basement. All right. But then it's like, could I have a finished basement? Then it was a walkout basement. You remember those days? There's one thing to have a basement. There's another thing to be able to walk outside, not have to walk back upstairs to access, right? I remember just wanting a pool. I mean, if I could just get a pool. Now it was an in-ground pool, okay? It wasn't an above-ground pool, but still. And then I had to have a pool house. And then I remember having pictures of an outdoor kitchen and a giant outdoor fireplace. And it's amazing. Preceding every accomplishment, if it was buying a Jeep, if it was buying my first Bentley, if it was buying my first McLaren, buying my first Lamborghini, everything, before it happened, there was a picture, there was a goal that I had, that whenever I'd get tired, whenever I'd get weak, whenever mentally I would struggle, I would go back to the goal. I would see it. Can I tell you this? And this is so good. High performers, they don't rely so much on motivation as they do structure. And I get it, man. I'm an intense guy, but can I tell you, it's not intensity that's really elevated me. It's been consistency that has elevated me. And what I've learned is when I'm looking to create a goal, when I'm looking to create a desired future that I'm not at now, my schedule is a contract that I'm signing with my future. I mean, do you hear that? I mean, when I'm looking at creating a schedule and saying, okay, this is what I'm doing when. That's actually a contract that I'm signing with myself saying, if I stay on schedule, it really reflects my priorities. Now, let me just back up to say your calendar tells the truth about your priorities. No matter what we claim, no matter what we say is our goal, I can look at your calendar and tell you what your priorities are. So I don't know if you use your phone like I do to schedule what it is you do when you do it. But for me, if it's not on the calendar, it's not a priority. And if I were you, look at your calendar, look at what you have prioritized. And that's really the goal that indirectly you're chasing, whether you know it or not. It's true. So you set a goal, you create priorities that reflect your goals, and then your schedule is really that contract that you're signing saying, okay, it's on the schedule because it's a priority, because that's the ultimate goal. The third point is temporary clumsiness. Hey, whenever you're growing, let me just tell you, you don't look clumsy, you are clumsy. If you were to see my little boy right now, little Rocky, he's a drunk midget, man, walking around the house, bumping into shit. I mean, just he got a little. We don't beat that boy. He just beats himself, man. Hitting his little, tiny head. He's 24 pounds now. I think he's 17 months old when this is being shot. And this little boy, he's adorable, but listen, temporarily he's clumsy. And can I tell you what I've learned about growth? Whenever you're at a place you've never been before, you're going to feel unstable. But don't let your instability and the inability to have all the answers and you feel clumsy and you're like, wow, I've never done this before. Hell no, you've never done this before. But that means, and that's an indicator, you're on the grow. So when you're growing, let me say it again. There's going to be these unstable times, unanswered questions, man, missteps, failures, times where, God, I wish I could go back and do that again. It's a part of the journey. One of the things we teach our little boy is to find your feet. We say, Rocky, find your feet, find your feet, find your feet. My nanny, our nanny, her name is Teresa. She's amazing. And she taught him that. And I thought about that. I'm like, that's really when you're in business, when you're at a place that you've never been, when you're doing more than you've ever done, leading more people than you've ever led. You first have to find your feet and be able to create something in a place that you've never been, stability, because look, staying unstable is not going to sustain growth. I'm saying that when you're temporarily clumsy, it's an indicator that you're in a growing season. That's so good. Let me give you number 4. This is literally in the pamphlet we're showing you right now. Shifts in mood. Shifts in mood. Now, Rocky is at a fit pitching age. Some of you watching this right now might still be at a fit pitching age at times. But let me just put it like this. Patience levels decrease when you're growing. Patience, I get it. It's a process, right? I always hate it when people thank me for my patience. You ever be on the phone with somebody and I want to thank you, Mr. Harvey, for your patience. Don't thank me for something I'm not. I'm not patient at all. I know what you're trying to pull here. But at the same time, there is a sense, and I've learned this of understanding when you are on the grow, you better expect something called crankiness. When you're on the grow, you understand the clock is freaking ticking. When you're on the grow, it doesn't happen as fast as you want. It doesn't happen with the same level of urgency or intensity with which you would rather it be. Because of that, you start to get cranky. The pamphlet said shifts in mood, and I've learned that when you're growing, man, listen, there's no time for games. There's no time for average. There's no time to be mediocre because you understand the sands in that hourglass are sinking. And once your time is up, your time is up. Ambition. Ambition has a schedule to keep. Ambition doesn't just keep score, guys. Ambition reminds you of the score every chance it gets. And I'm just saying that when you're growing, you're in this zone, so to speak, when your mood shifts and you become more serious than you used to be. One analogy I've used with my guys for years is on soggy cereal. And I don't know how many cereal lovers there are out there. Cereal killers. How about that? I love to kill me some cereal. I'm a Raisin Bran guy. I'm a Life cereal guy. Have you ever thought about the time from which you pour the milk into the bowl and it kind of surrounds the cereal, how long you've got to eat it. I mean, it's not just an indefinite amount of time, is it? I mean, you can't just, go to the mailbox, have a conversation with the neighbor, come back and expect that cereal to stay crispy. Oh no, because cereal, like you and like I, gets soggy. And so you have this opportunity. You have this cornflakes. You have this Apple Jacks. You've got this honeycombs, throwback. You've got this fruity pebbles, so to speak, cocoa pebbles. How about that? And the milk goes on. And when the milk goes on, guess what? The clock starts. And you have an opportunity when the iron is hot for you to strike. But listen, that's when ambition kicks in. That's when that internal clock of, you know what, I'm not going to be crispy forever kicks in. And you realize that the time is now for the dreams that you have set forth to come to reality. And dude, for me, that's just been such a part of the growth that we've experienced. Can I give you number 5 really quick? Old things don't fit. This was in the pamphlet. Old things don't fit. We were recently in Paris and we bought Rocky some golden gooses. What are we doing buying Rocky golden gooses? Kid's like, 13 months old at the time. So at like the 17-month-old stage, the boy's already grown out of them. He's already grown out of them. What is he doing growing out of things? Well, guess what? He's on the grow. But dude, it's his time. It's his season. When you're growing, old things don't fit. I remember when I first started my company, which we went from 50 agents when we sold to over 5,000 agents in some 11 years. When I first started that organization, every friend that I had, I'm not saying I outgrew them. I'm saying that my ambition, my intentionality, my attention to detail, my commitment level grew. And as a result, some old things didn't fit. Some old relationships, some old friendships, some old habits. And I find that outgrowing friendships, believe it or not, it was a good thing. Look, I outgrew lazy people. I outgrew habitual complainers. I outgrew simple-minded. I outgrew the box I was living in, thinking and dreaming and living. No, look, there was something that was growing inside of me, and as a result, some things that used to fit didn't fit anymore. Let me say it like this. If your friend group hasn't changed, it might be a sign that you're stagnant. If you haven't made any new friends, anyone that's an influencer in your life, anyone that speaks into your life, hey, if you're the smartest person in your group, you need a new group, bro. You need somebody that's going to stretch you and going to be able to push you. Let me give you this last point. The last thing they said on this pamphlet, this was so good. This was so good. It actually fast forwarded into the maternity. There again, there's you had the pediatrician side of this office and the maternity side. And again, we're talking about growth, and it actually talked about pregnant women, and it talked about how pregnant women would experience something called stretch marks. And if you've ever been a father or a mother, you understand that when a woman gets pregnant, guess what? There's legitimate stretch marks that happen. Why? Because there's this beautiful baby living inside of this woman. And I want to talk about stretch marks, not necessarily from a pregnancy standpoint, but from a business standpoint. And I've learned something about stretching. You really can't stretch yourself. I mean, not to the fullest. Not anywhere near as much as you can have someone else stretch you. And when they talk about stretch marks and seeing the ability for you to stretch yourself when you're growing, that when you see these stretch marks, that's an indicator that guess what? It's your time, it's your season. The green light is in front of you. I just want to tell you that the ability to find someone that can stretch you, that can push you in the right directions, that can oftentimes sometimes pull you back from the wrong directions is absolutely huge. Coaches used to teach it's not stretching if it doesn't hurt a little. Your coaches teach that? I've heard my coaches teach that for years. Hey, if it ain't hurting, guess what? You're not really stretching. It's funny, amateur bodybuilders years ago missed the value of stretching because they thought it was all about the amount of weight they could lift, right? It was all about the amount of weight that they could push. And it was all about, again, the contracting of your muscles this way. They missed out on the flexibility factor. Okay. And how flexibility was able to do something for someone that contracting wasn't able to do. And I'm saying that in order for new blood to flow into your muscles, to your business, you can't be stagnant and not stretch yourself. You can't be stagnant and not try to do some things that you've never done before, that you've never attempted before, that you've never thought that you could do before. The greatest, I would say, seasons of growth in my life that I have ever experienced, was when I was being stretched the most. When you talk about growth spurts, when I was being stretched to do things, to have to believe in myself in ways, to have to invest in others and in opportunities, guess what? It was a stretch, but it created and brought about the greatest amount of growth that I've ever experienced. I've been growing things my entire career. And one of the reasons we come to you on the drive is because there are principles and there are ideologies that when they're manifested into reality, when you put them into practice, bro, it creates results. Bottom line. Bottom line. And I want to thank you for tuning in to The Drive.